I am back! This is Tweak, and I'm going to show you how I built my automatic crop farmer. Well, about as automatic as it gets anyway. This will harvest wheat, carrots, and potatoes. And if you are interested in finding an automatic melon and pumpkin farmer, then subscribe or go back through my tutorial list because I already made one for that. This is for other crops. It is behind me. That is what it looks like, and let's get started. Alright, so this is the basic look of it. Uh-oh, one of them got eaten. And this back row won't grow, so I screwed that up. But as you can see, because I'm obsessive compulsive and I like patterns, I went wheat, carrots, potatoes, wheat, carrots, potatoes. And they're all grown, so hopefully this will show you how it works. Down here I have my hoppers, and because I'm in a snow biome, I also have alternating glowstone to keep the water from turning to ice, because if it turns to ice then it won't work. So yeah, so this is how it looks when it's all ready to go. And because I haven't brought my torch, or my lever rather, up close, I'm going to have to run all the way back here. Push my lever! You can see what happened here. My circuitry, which I'll explain in detail later. And holy crap, a flood! Oh no! Yes, the water has been released and it is now pushing all of the mature crops down into the water that was already there, which then pushes it into hoppers. Now you'll see the crops collecting here. That's why I didn't have an infinite pool right here, because as soon as I turn off the water up there, this will clear up, so don't worry about that. Alright, as soon as it looks like this has been successfully harvested, there aren't any more crops flowing down, go over, push the lever again. You can see a change here. And as you can see, the water drains out, it flows down. And then once the water is clear here, what was previously here all by itself then pushes the crops into the hoppers, so you don't have any floaty crops. Everything is pushed into the hoppers and into these chests, as you can see, quite a bit of product, which is very, very nice, especially if you're trying to exploit a system. As I'm sure you can also see, I have water back behind these blocks, and that is how these stay wet. So that way you don't have to have water, because you can't alternate and have a strip of water above, or else this flow will stop right on top. So you want to do one water block right underneath, right next to the edge where it connects, and then it will flow 3 out, so it'll make these 3 wet. I will explain and show in more detail how I did that when I build a small scale version of this. So let's get to that. Okay, I am where we're going to build this. I'm just going to build an extra small version of that. So it is pretty compact, the version I'm going to be building. Nothing too terribly fancy, although there are many blocks we're going to need. So to start, I'll kind of go through the materials list. You'll need more than this, so unfortunately I can't just make a basic materials list to start, but I'll do my best. You will need a chest, obviously, to collect your crops, pistons, a lever, redstone repeaters, dirt so your crops have somewhere to grow, sand for on top of the pistons, stone bricks or whatever kind of aesthetic block you would like, just to make it pretty, match your theme, and also keep the water from flowing out. And in this particular case, I will need glowstone because I'm in a snow biome, or I can also use lots of torches to try and keep the water from turning into ice. And I will also need hoppers, which I will get. Let's see, we'll put it in place of that. And these are very important, because you need them in order to actually do this. So, with the hopper, circle behind the chest, hold shift, and click on the back of the chest. You'll want to go out 2, and make sure that the bottom tube is not pointing downward like that, that it's pointing inward toward the chest. And if you want to go wider than the chest is, you have to go to the side. So you see how the tube now faces inward like that. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to do that. Very basic, very easy. It's just, there are many things that people don't expect noobs to, they expect noobs to figure it out, and it took me a very long time to figure that out, so I thought I would save you guys the trouble. So there you go, that is the basic setup. I'm going to place my aesthetic blocks now. They're mostly to keep the water contained, so you don't end up with an issue later of water everywhere. Because I am in a snow biome, I will need to use glowstone. Let's see. And then you'll want to put blocks on this first row of hoppers, because if you place any right above the chest, it won't open, so you can't do that. You have to put it on the first row. That's why there's the second row here to collect everything. So I'll fill that in. Oof, lag. Good golly. Let's see. We'll delete that. Alright, and we will need to place water as well, which I will do momentarily. Okay, so that will be the first tier. And I just add a little bit of extra precaution by raising this wall up to make sure that the water doesn't flow to the side or go all over the place and screw things up, which it has a tendency to do. And I will build, let's see, let's do two more tiers. So we can have one for each crop. That doesn't necessarily need to be dirt, it just was for the sake of convenience, but it can be as simple as that. And I guess for the sake of this tutorial it will be, so I can show you how I watered those. Okay, I placed my hopper, so I'll get rid of that. I'll get a water source, and I'll place one here, and one here. And you see how it's a continuous flow? That's what you want. You don't want it to be stagnant. You don't want an infinite pool, because that'll screw it up, I promise. I don't want this to freeze, so I'm going to put extra glowstone just to keep it nice and flowing. And, I've already placed my chest. Oh, see, there it goes. Turns into stone. What the heck? Stop doing that. You are bad. No. Okay. I forgot what I was getting. Oh. Hoe. Actually, no, I won't get a hoe just yet. Okay, I will place the water first. So, you build a little encasing area like this. This is kind of hard to do without making a mess, so just anticipate that you will make a mess once you start placing this water. You want to place the sources right up against that block. So right up against it. This is going to make a mess, so then place your enclosure blocks. Try not to screw it up like I just did. And that'll clean up your mess, and once this is tilled in farmland, you will be able to see water on the other side. So let's clean that up, shall we? There it is, water right on that side, and this will start getting wet, although it would otherwise because of this. So a better demonstration will be once I have the other two tiers watered. Which you do in the same way. You build an enclosure. Make sure that the water will go everywhere, but try to contain it as best you can. Place your water. Place your containment blocks. And then till the ground to make sure that it shows through. And then these will start to get wet. And finally, you can do the same thing on the topmost tier. I didn't on that one because it wasn't terribly necessary. Wheat grows so fast, it doesn't really matter. So you do the same thing. Make sure it's contained so it will spill a minimum Now it'll go everywhere. Place your containment block. And there it goes. Perfect. And I don't believe it will turn into ice back there. Hopefully. Nope, it doesn't look like it will. Because it's not exposed to the air, it's enclosed. So it shouldn't turn into ice, but if you're concerned, you can make these too high and then place torches to keep that from turning into ice. It's okay if that backwater is an infinite pool as well. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, that is your basic setup for your tiers. And I don't like that block because I'm obsessive compulsive, so I'm going to fix it. Alright, so now you want to start with your redstone wiring. So place your pistons facing upward if you need to, because not everybody has creative mode. You'll have to build like a step ladder or something in order to get above and place these. And then right away you want to wire them, so that way you know just how high up they'll go. So in order to wire them, place a block behind, and then place redstone repeaters facing in toward the pistons. Make sure your pistons are facing up. You want the wood to face the direction you want the pistons to push into. That'll make more sense after I get this wired. So add another block. Add your redstone wiring. Make sure it's all connected and it all looks good, and then a good way to test it to make absolutely sure that it's wired properly is just by adding a lever or a button. I'm going to add a lever because we'll need it later. Yep, that's exactly what you want, is you want those to be pushed up. So, let's see. I'm going to build this so the lever is on the ground because otherwise it gets kind of awkward. Okay. In order to do steps with the redstone, you really, literally just build steps like that, and it will connect like this. And then you can build the lever, push it right there. Same thing happens. It works great, looks good, everything's perfect. So I'm going to leave that on because you want it to stay on. Oops. And I'll show you why. Okay, so this is basically our containment blocks for the uppermost tier. This uppermost tier will be where the water comes from in order to harvest all the crops. And I just realized I placed one too many, so I will stop that, because that could be very messy. There we go. Much less messy. That one is also very messy. Okay, that was my mistake. We'll fix that. Alright, you only want as many tiers as you have rows. So you don't want, as you saw just a second ago, you don't want one here and you don't want one here. You only want it as wide as your farmland. You don't want it any wider, because otherwise it will make a huge mess, I promise you, and you'll wish you hadn't done it. Okay, so now build a little containment area like this. So this is effectively walled off. And place a water source against each block. So it's an infinite pool, just like that. Now, when you come down here and you press this lever, the pistons will fall, the water will flow, and with the water flowing, you will harvest your crops. As soon as you press the lever again, the water will come up, it drains out, and you end up with a piston in your chest if you left a piston up there because you broke it. Make sure that this is either walled off or it has glowstone or torches to keep the water from freezing if you're in a snow biome, because otherwise you'll wonder why one row isn't harvesting, and it can be quite frustrating after a little while. You want to make sure that there are water sources on each so you have an infinite stream. And from there, you can plant your crops, make sure they grow, and then once you press that lever, it'll harvest them by flowing down. All of these should be wet if you need to. If you go as far as 3 deep, as I did over here, 1, 2, 3, It will take some time for these all to get wet, but they will. And then you don't have to worry about your crops growing really, really slow, or worse, not growing at all. And if you are hyper aesthetic like I am, you can see here what I did. It's the exact same setup, except instead of just having the pistons pushing up against the water, I used sand. That way it looks nicer, it flows a little bit better, you don't have to worry about the piston and the wiring right up against the water, although it isn't really a problem, it doesn't look as good. So you have to use sand or soul sand because they're the only blocks in the game that have gravity. So if you tried using dirt, you would end up with a dirt block permanently pushed up right there, and that doesn't help you any. You have to use sand if you're going to do this method. Otherwise, you can stick to the basic method with just the pistons pushing up against the water, and that will work just fine. There, that way it won't freeze. So yeah, exact same setup, very compact, very basic. No problems here. It is a little large, but you can also make this as wide, as tall as you want, and you can have multiple tiers that drain into each other. This is very, very effective. You can also, as with any redstone circuit, set up a timer on it so it goes off occasionally at a set rate. Personally, I don't like that because I like making sure that the crops have all grown, otherwise I end up wasting seeds. So I would rather have a lever up front that I can just hit and then have it all come down. If you're unsure how to push the lever so it's all the way over here, I will show you. This will just flow down and I'm not too worried about it. Oh, that turned into ice and now I'm frustrated by that. There we go. Okay, so if you're wondering how to get the lever all the way over here, because as I'm sure you can tell, once you put the lever here and you put your redstone, I think I missed one. I missed two. Golly. No. It fizzles out. It doesn't quite reach where it needs to go. It can, but it fizzles. So you can instead replace about every 3, 2, 1, 2, 3 with redstone repeaters, and the repeaters act as amplifiers. They make the signal stronger so they don't fizzle out. And that way you can make this literally the world long, and one lever will still turn it on. So there you go.